Hey, and here we are again. Welcome to another Forensic Happy Hour. Should be a good time. I think you guys will really enjoy Troy Schnack because not only is he a super smart guy, um, he's looking good today, and you guys will be definitely impressed with his forensic wear. I think it's going to go wild. So obviously, without any further ado, I think we're going to start it up. So, hey, welcome, Troy, and it's great to see you. And like we were talking kind of before, it's been a couple of years since we've actually ran into each other. I see you quite a bit on social media, so that's fantastic. But what I want you to do is, you know yourself the best, right? So tell everyone. I mean, who's Troy Schnack?
Troy Schnack is getting warm under this hood. So first thing I'm going to do is take that down a little bit. My official title is I'm the computer system admin for the Federal Public Defender's Office in Missouri. I've been doing that just over 20 years, and about 6 months into the job, I started to have to deal with computer forensic kinds of cases. So they were nice enough to let me start doing training and paying for that training. And so I've basically been doing digital forensics for 20 years as well. So I not only manage network systems and security and day-to-day I can't print and all this fun COVID, we're all teleworking, trying to talk to clients in jails, but at the same time, I'm also doing forensics. So I'm kind of a Jedi of all trades.
Love it. I love it. The Bald Jedi, as I keep referring to it, so that people are watching it, they now understand, right? So, but we need to make sure and start it off right with a cheers to this. And one question, obviously, working on and different, not necessarily corporate, not necessarily on the law enforcement, but dealing with law enforcement, right? I have a law enforcement background, and other guests have had kind of law enforcement backgrounds. But tell me, why is it important, and especially the federal public defenders? I mean, why is that important to have an expert or an investigator, especially with digital forensics? Why is that important?
So I can have a job.
Exactly. Perfect. Okay.
Next
Solve that.
question.
Next question. Let's move on. Right.
So actually, it's so that we can have a equal and balanced system. Just like in the force, you have the TIE fighter
Right.
and the X-wing because you have to have balance.
Yeah. Oh, balance in the force. Very good.
So,
I
so
love the analogy.
the Defender Office helps to kind of provide that balance, kind of a check, and because we're dealing typically with what I'm dealing with in criminal cases. A lot of it is child sexual abuse material. Those penalties, at least in federal court, carry a very heavy penalty. And, we want to make sure that basically what I do when I do my initial exams is what the government said on the machine, is how they said it got there, how it got there, and can I put my client at the keyboard and either get the best deal for them, which is a plea to move the system along faster, or I've had, I think, 3 cases in my 20 years where they were actually innocent and we got charges dropped on it. So I think even one person being innocent is worth me doing this all these years because it saved that person from doing 15 plus years in prison.
So to think of it that way, I mean, how important is digital forensics in the investigation, right? In the criminal or the civil side of it, is it no longer? Is it? We're not going to worry about, say, the shoe that we found here. We're going to look at the shoe, or is it going to be, say, the phone, or the computer that's involved? What do you think that people are taking that? I guess utilizing digital evidence more.
Oh, definitely. I think that it's really grown from where I started, of course. not just in, hey, it holds terabytes instead of megabytes or gigabytes, but it's grown in the cases that it affects. So we have cases where someone's on supervised release, which is kind of like probation, but in federal system. And the probation officer says, hey, they didn't stay in communication. The client says, yes, I did. So we get the client's phone and check for text messages. I mean, just simple stuff like that. Felon in possession of a firearm. They take a selfie holding a weapon. Okay.
Right. That's a little tough, right?
Yeah. But it still progresses the case faster, in my opinion. Even though they're going to plead guilty, it kind of helps to stop all the, if you didn't do it, it's going to show it. If you did it, it's going to show it. There's no gray.
Okay, so tell me quickly, terabytes. You got lots of information, lots of data. How are you going through that information? I mean, because it's not looking through every piece.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, the first thing I do is take a look at the reports. My job's kind of easy. The government's already done all this digging from no information. Mm-hmm. So then I take their reports and I say, okay, they say these 3 videos were in this folder and this is what was in the video. So I validate that, which takes almost no time at all. Basically, I'm just mounting an image, right? I don't have to process anything to make that happen.
Right, right.
And then I have to figure out, how did those get there? Are they in a downloads folder? Were they running BitTorrent or Freenet or whatever to go out and get that file? And then I might need to start processing. If it's like right now, I'm only getting into the government's lab to work 3 to 4 hours a week because of all the limited stuff. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is I get the image mounted in something like Autopsy, just so I can browse the folders. And then I export things that are important to me out, like link files from the recent folder. And I use Eric Zimmerman's easy command line tools to parse those out and dump them to a CSV. And then I export that stuff and bring it home and actually do my analysis on those exported spreadsheets.
Right, right.
Because there just isn't enough time to run some kind of a major suite against all of that data.
Right.
Or if I have to do that, I have 2 phones, 3 computers, and an external hard drive.
Right.
I'll point a tool at it and start it running and then be gone for a week and come back and hope it didn't puke and hope it's sitting there ready to go.
Right. Right. So if you look at the data that you're processing, I guess, what type of data or sources that you're dealing with most in your cases?
The large percentage of time, it's EO1 images if it's from a computer or some kind of computer media, and if they're phones, they're almost always either like a zip extraction from logical Androids, iOS stuff, or some UFED dumps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's typically what I'm getting on the mobile side.
So in taking that, do you, in obviously with the federal public defenders, are you dealing with images, or are there times where you actually collect?
It is a rare occasion that I collect.
Yeah.
Again, I'm lucky on this side because I don't have to deal with as much all that collection and managing the chain of custody forms. I mean, we have all of that in place. And processes and storage and secured and all that. But most of the time, it's already been gathered in the field 6 months ago,
right,
before it ever gets charged.
Right.
And then we get it, and then I get copies of it.
Right.
I think in some cases, though, we'll have like a girlfriend had a phone that says there's something important on there that law enforcement didn't take. Or, hey, there was another computer that didn't take. Or this was a case that really wasn't, at first blush, forensics weren't important, but we know that, hey, maybe we want cell tower location records.
Right.
Because I had a case where someone was fingered to be a bank robber. Mm-hmm. He swore up and down, hey, I do cat burglary, but I don't rob banks.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
So,
right.
checked it out, and we got the dumps from the vendor and mapped it out. And sure enough, he was working 20 miles away when this bank was being robbed,
Right.
and they dropped the charges on him. So, it's little things like that that you don't think about at first. I think the hardest part of my job right now is not the forensics. It's training attorneys why things are important, what they mean, why what I found is helpful or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm being tasked by the National Federal Defenders. I think in September, I'm doing a webinar on how to read mobile forensic reports. What does the stuff mean?
Mm-hmm.
How does it help you? How does it hurt you? What do all those, what's that huge Celebrite or whatever dump?
Right.
What do you look for in those 5,000 pages of crap that's actually useful?
So that brings up a good question for me. What is, I guess, the most utilized? If you look at in digital forensics, I mean, give me examples like, say, computers and computer forensics. I mean, what is your go-to in computer forensics that you're going to make sure that you're looking for, right? In an artifact, and then how about with mobile devices? I mean, what is that? In your Android, in the iOS, what is that artifact that you're saying, man, that's money, and you look at it every time?
Boy, this is the great part about the job, right? It's always different.
Right.
You
True.
learn some new crap you've never seen before.
Right.
And we all write blogs about it.
Right.
That's what happens. I think on the computer side, I would say 98% of my computer cases, they're child abuse cases.
Right.
So what you look for is you look for those images, you filter for the media files. Then the very next thing I do is I check user activity against autofills in web history.
Right.
So if my client is Joe Schmo, and I can show Joe Schmo logged into OneDrive 5 minutes before or after he opened this video, then we're done.
Right.
I don't need to spend any more time doing anything.
Right.
There's nothing you can do to get around that. Fortunately, the law enforcement doesn't do that typically for me. Their reports say, hey, here it was, we found this IP address, we downloaded something, we seized the machine, we found the videos, and now we're charging. Mm-hmm. That one extra piece would save everybody a lot of work.
Right.
On a cell phone, man, those cases are so different. Amazingly, as much as you read about, this encrypted WhatsApp, Signal, blah. My clients all still use SMS text.
Right.
They might. I think sometimes the weird thing is they'll use Facebook Messenger, which oddly enough, most of those don't get stored on the phone. You have to go to the cloud to get a lot of those back and forth messages, which is weird. But
it's interesting to see because typically, I mean, I'm just guessing, right? I've been out of kind of the law enforcement and doing kind of that type of casework for a while, but I could only imagine that if you looked at the age of the person that's being investigated, or that you want to get, you can probably decide on what they're utilizing, right? So you have the young, those kids that are 19 to 20. TikTok and, Snapchat and all those, as you're progressing up, into that maybe 25, 30, they might be utilizing, if you're looking at, Signal, Telegram, other Skype, not so much obviously with the chat anymore, but, as you get older, it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just SMSing, or iMessage or MMS. Is that what you're seeing, or is that just a theory of mine?
You would think, although in the federal system, I typically don't get as young. If somebody's like a drug dealer or something,
right?
Usually they've kind of been in and out of the state system a couple times, and then then they're a felon, and then they have a gun on them, But you would be surprised. I mean, it is crazy. after all of the news and what I feel like, because I'm constantly watching Twitter, right? I'm watching
Right.
DFIR all the time. And I'm
Right.
like, oh God, all these things we're going to have to crack.
Right.
I
Right.
have every client is still texting. They almost all use Androids because they're way cheaper.
Right.
I never have a problem getting into the phone.
Right.
Oh, plus, if you ask if I do my own devices, here's the best part. They swear that there's something important on that phone that's going to exonerate them, right? So we look, and sometimes there is, but they give me their code.
Right.
I
Exactly.
don't have to break into anything.
Right. Right. It's a best friend thing, right? I mean, there you go. So let's go this way, because it just popped into my mind. Is say that you have to then do the collection, right? Because either girlfriend or, like you said, they're saying, hey, here's a code to my phone. Yeah, hey, I'm gonna dump this to find some exculpatory evidence or what. What if you find something that's not related to the case that you're dealing with, but it's okay? What do we do with this? That type of stuff, right? Okay, I'm looking. This isn't this particular crime. It's possible this is a different thing. I mean, what do you do then?
That's an awesome question.
Yeah, I come up with all of these. I mean, again, the more beer I drink, the better the questions get. So we can be here.
Right. All right. So, my answer to that is there's a couple of things that get done. One, if let's say they're charged with possession of marijuana. I'm just picking something.
Yeah.
And I find that there's way more quantities on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
As a defense expert, we are not obligated to report that.
As long as it's the same crime, right?
Right. It's like having some other expert come in and do something. If the results aren't what you want, you don't. Unlike the government who has to give that to the defense, we don't have to go the other way. Uh-huh. Now, if it's something like your second part of your question outside of the current case, that's when I love being the geek. And I walk it into the attorney and say, here you go. You make the call because it's your ethics.
Right.
This is not, at the end of the day, it's not my client.
Yeah, you're just the expert. You're the expert. You give them the information. It's up to them. Right.
And but I definitely will never do. I think that's the other reason I get along with all the people at the RCFL here in Missouri. Mm-hmm. We're all very good friends. We respect each other immensely.
Right.
Had many compliments from them about this is the best defense expert we've ever seen because he doesn't make stuff up on the stand. So even though I work for the defense and I kind of have a defense mind when I'm looking at cases, when it comes down to writing an affidavit or testifying in court, I don't play games. If it's not, I'm not going to say it. Right. And I think that's helped kind of cement me as a respected, at least around here.
Yeah, for sure. So the one thing, and not on necessarily the forensic side of it, but you mentioned something that, I've been talking about with a lot of the other guests is really, and I don't want to say I don't like the term new normal type of thing, but so because everyone's either working from home or we have to really transition and do different types of different things, I look at on the side of, what type of evidence is that producing? So think of it on, to put your network hat on, or you're setting up, now Zoom or secure, however you can talk to your, the clients that might be, incarcerated and because you're not able to go out, So do you think that evidence is digital evidence or digital data that you're going to have to deal with is going to be breaking through the ceiling because of this, whether it be because we have to do it or whether it because we're going to continue to do it, because it works?
Well, one, I would say, I'm thinking about your question because I kind of knew where you were going. So I have a couple of answers to that. One is, no, there's not going to be any more because I can still only store so much on it's not like my phone just tripled in size.
Right.
And my computer didn't triple in size.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I may be generating some more artifacts here and there. I think it's more on the cloud and
Yeah.
incident response side of the DFIR equation.
Yeah. So tell
So,
me, so
you
tell
know,
me,
everybody,
be, be,
what internet providers doing right now with everyone teleworking? And you remember those old cable ads? Log off!
right,
I can't download such and so.
right.
I mean, they've got to be generating just massive amounts of logs.
So you kind of went right into what I wanted to talk about is information that's stored in a cloud service, right? Being that transactional devices, whatever you have, whether a desktop or anything else, right? Microsoft 360, all this stuff, everything's stored within all these different services within the cloud. A lot of companies are using just pretty much a shell, right? That I'm going and using. I deploy all the applications, and so think of it that as like a huge mobile device. Because a mobile device, you might deploy the hey, new phone, great. I have all my new apps. I log into them. Wow, look at all my data's there. So tell me how important is it to investigate information that's stored within a cloud service?
Oh, it's huge. And I mean, it's constantly, of course, just like apps on phones, it's constantly changing, right?
Right.
And it may be that you purchased your storage or your service from this little company, but they're using somebody big, IBM or Amazon or whoever, to actually source that data. So I think it's massive. And that's another great point from our perspective. We cannot, unless we actually have the login credentials,
Mm-hmm.
the defense cannot subpoena records from anybody.
Right.
Facebook, Google, you name it, they all just give us the finger.
Right. Yeah.
You have to have a warrant. So
Right.
now how's that quandary? I can't go to the prosecutor and say, we kind of think there might be data. Could you do a warrant?
Right. Do you mind getting that information for us that my client says is
Yeah,
on there?
here's a 6-pack. Would you get
Right.
a warrant?
Exactly. Exactly. So, but to the point, do you see a lot of, on the law enforcement side of it, utilizing cloud services as part of the investigative tool?
None.
Why do you think that is?
Probably a big chunk of it is because of the kind of cases I'm still getting.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of cases I get in Missouri are a completely different case set than like they might be getting in Illinois because of whatever's important to that local prosecutor, U.S. Attorney. Yeah. So, I mean, the cases that I'm seeing, I'm not getting a lot of, I think maybe fraud, or I've gotten a few like terrorism, mm-hmm. like threat cases that involved some cloud data.
Right. Right.
But I think law enforcement's still trying to figure out how to investigate it and mm-hmm. how to record it and right. how to store it and process it.
Right. Right.
I've seen a few get warrants for like Facebook dumps and stuff that kind of are just small pieces to corroborate the bigger case.
So let me ask you this, put you on the spot. So who owns the data, right? Who owns, so the data, you use Facebook Messenger.
I don't know why I'm an attorney all of a sudden.
I'm not. I'm just asking you.
You're not asking me anymore.
Is that, if we look at, kind of the data, say Snapchat or WhatsApp or Instagram, if I have all those accounts, wouldn't it be that I own the data as the user?
Man, you'd think so, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, all the terms and services say that I do.
But so it doesn't work that way. I can get a release signed by you and send it to Snapchat or send it to whoever.
Right.
Say, hey, Instagram, here's a release from Lee that said he wants a copy of his data. And they're like, sorry about your luck.
Which is crazy because, hey, everyone in law enforcement, ding, 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 is that read the terms and of service because it specifically states that I own my data, right? And I have a right to either remove my data or have my data. So
Mhm.
interesting thing. And if they're saying no, you can't do that, I that would be definitely an interesting
Yep.
thing.
There's
But I,
litigation, I'm sure, coming
there
from.
has to be, yeah, there has to be, obviously, because you own it. Now, you don't own the servers that it's stored on, obviously.
Right.
It's like, the data is stored within a locked
Yeah.
whatever.
Give me your
Obviously, so
database. There might be some deleted
right,
files.
exactly. I'm going to go through every single one of them. Right. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Right.
But obviously, to that repository, you think that they deliver it, which I know. With Google, with Facebook, and with a lot of those, obviously paperwork, and you get the dump of that user's data on there, and that kind of is available. But you're exactly right. It is extremely difficult to deal with, especially with these companies. I mean, you start looking at with TikTok. I mean, it's a Chinese company, and I mean, what are you going to try to get that
Finding
information? All they have to
contact.
do is say no. So
Yeah.
that's again, that is forever will be a law enforcement issue. I mean, it's trying to get that and trying to have and cooperate with those. It's a difficult process, and my hat's off, especially having to deal with a lot of that, not only on the law enforcement side of it, but on the legal side of it. Is there red tape in your job at all?
Do what?
Is there red tape? You need red tape.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
well, I also am the system admin. So I do all the IT purchasing
Yeah.
and the quoting and GSA and all of that fun stuff.
Yeah. I
So
know. So
to this point about, again, this is kind of like this cloud data. It's not new, but it's still kind of new.
yeah.
And we still have lots of people in both law enforcement and the defense who still don't understand what I was learning 20 years ago in computer forensics and a file system and what a deleted file means and whatever.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, it's a tough gap that keeps widening. I think it's my biggest concern. We've got, I mean, I agree with you. There's a ton of new stuff coming out on cloud that I think it could really be helpful in us getting to the truth, which is what the whole point of forensics is, right? You want the truth. You want to find out what happened and deal with that.
Exactly.
But I just had a case where someone was accused of having inappropriate image on their phone because a person who didn't know what they were doing ran a phone forensics tool and just looked at all the thumbnails that came out and saw one that even when I look at it, oh yeah, that's inappropriate. But they didn't ever look at the path where it was. And I used what I learned from this fantastic book right here.
Yeah, and no, shameless plug. Didn't thank you very much for that. So that's perfect.
But it was inside of an APK
Okay.
that had never been run. And when I converted it to a zip file and poked around in there, it was a malware. It was it had James Comey's signature in there.
Oh, really?
And it said this was an FBI, and we have detected this image on your phone.
And sweet. Like a ransomware.
Yes, and then gave you where to go buy credit cards.
Really?
So when they interviewed the guy, and he's like, I swear to you, I've never seen that photo before.
Yeah.
They didn't believe him. So not only do we have attorneys that don't know what we're doing, the dangerous thing is we have people that are using these tools who we want them to be easier and gooey, right?
Right.
But man, there's a lot of people using these tools. I don't know if they don't have the funding or what, that don't get trained on how to read the output on it either.
Right.
So that just makes everybody's job harder. Yeah. I don't think that's way more important. The education is way more important than, I'll let the lawyers litigate with the cloud and figure out how to get that. But
exactly right.
Man, the thing I want is a whole bunch of new data that they don't know how to interpret either.
Right. Yeah, and so I think I 100% agree with you, and it continues to this day. I think with the backward approach that I always refer to is with here's the tool, use the tool, fantastic. And hey, when you have time, get trained on it. Well, typically that time never comes, right? And so,
Or the
so
fun,
the,
right?
yeah,
And
exactly.
with
And so
economy
that,
tanking, who's going
yeah.
to have money for training?
Yeah, exactly. Either buy the tool, get training, or the others, which is a huge problem, right? But there's so many resources out there in the community that don't cost a thing, right? I know Autopsy did a whole free deal, of
I
taking those
did that.
classes. Oh,
It was
fantastic.
great.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's resources out there. There's a ton, DFIR training and all those others, those resources, and that's really why I want to bring people on
Communicate that
is trying to get it.
to the local, the sheriff's offices and those people who, they're not on Twitter. They don't follow DFIR or anything
Yeah,
else. They don't know who the Bald Jedi is.
right,
They don't
right.
know who you are.
Yeah.
Um, how do you communicate? I mean, how do we get the word out that, hey, there's these resources and it's okay to take some time to go follow them?
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, there's Troy's. That's what you're now going to do is now form a repository that can be available to all state, local, federal, anybody that wants to go on there to get all of those resources so that they can get the free training they need, which I am a proponent of doing that. So, hey, fantastic time. It was very good. Some
Wow.
incredible stuff, Troy, man. Time flies like when you're having fun, man. So that's what I'm
Oh,
talking about on there. So it was, again, a great job. And so I want to say thank you. My beer is gone right here.
I've already started.
Fantastic. I got a little bit of a swallow. And hey, we will definitely do it again. I promise you. So thank you. Thank you for being on.
Good to see you again.
Outstanding. Had a great time. Cool. So I mean, this was great. And when you guys watch this again, if you did watch it live, it'll be much better. I can promise you that, just because of the editing ability, and to remove some of the buffering. I apologize for it, but hey, fantastic. And I promise you, again, we will have another person and the in the community that can share something for you guys. And if it's only just a small little nugget, um, hey, it all makes us smarter. So again, I appreciate everyone this week, and see you next.